Next, we need to talk about dialogue as communication. When we're talking about these dialogues of solidarity, we also have to understand that they depend on communication or a mobilization of the social relations of knowledge. And they also depend on cultivation of that knowledge, which is all mutually building and depending upon trust between each other. Without trust, without community, it's hard to create ecological mobilization to change behavior, and then once that behavior is changed, to maintain it over time. Another important piece of this puzzle are non-human actants, or networks of actors that extend well beyond the human, forming a broader coalition or collective. So this is not just about humans, it's about the environment, it's about the animals and the land. And when we're creating community, we can't just think about the community that we create between humans. We have to think about the community we create with non-humans and how they promote each other. In this case, an actant does not have to be able to speak to be part of an environmental movement. When we're mobilizing ecological contestations, we have to remember that the environmental sociology of contention is essentially how environmental social movements successfully confront resistance and, in the end, often broaden their solidarities. How do we move forward in changing social behavior when a lot of people have no interest in changing? How do we mobilize people to engage in behaviors that on the surface they don't like? There's some models of contestation. Of course, the conflict model of contestation is friction and powerful interests frequently stand in the way of any grassroots movement. And if we're going to engage in this conflict, then we have to embrace that conflict is going to happen. This is a very materialistic approach to social change. There's also the consensus-based approach, where we build relationships in which power is shared for a mutual benefit. And as many of you can imagine, this is pretty much an idealist approach to contestation. Another important point is the double politics and the political opportunity of structure. Both conflict and consensus have their place. This is not necessarily an either-or strategy. When we begin with analysis, we begin with an analysis of political opportunity and the structure that it's embedded in. There are 4 factors to consider when you're mapping out a successful strategy in the political realm, in this realm of contestation. First, an openness of decision makers to hearing concerns. Second, an implementation. Power decision makers have to do something about those concerns. The third, structure of alliances that shape how decision makers will feel compelled to act. And 4, a stability of all of the above. So the 4 factors to consider are openness of decision makers to hearing concerns. Second, the implementation of power decision makers and how they have to do something about those concerns. So You have your openness, it leads to implementation of something new. This is going to be embedded in the structure of alliances that shape how decision makers will feel compelled to act. And then you need to create a stable structure that continues to reify the things that you've put into place. In the end, we want to remind ourselves of the pros of the three cons. Conceptions, connections, and contestations are all derived from the root together. Grassroots environmental movements are successful when they are done together. This can lead to a dialogic providence where situational opportunities that provide scope for agency and change, and ultimately can create situations that invite these opportunities. So if we put these three pros, i.e., that we are calling cons, into play in a way that they are mutually beneficial, the conceptions lead to connections, lead to contestations, then we can lay the foundation for ecological mobilization.